NBA 544 over 237 and 238 Atlanta Dallas, 546 over 229 230 Spurs Denver, and 548 over 217 17.5 New Orleans Clippers. Be very cautious on NBA up until the playoffs. They are just looking to take advantage of big middles that are opening up, and more importantly, take advantage of information of players sitting. So unless you have odds logic and get the info as quickly as they do, or even earlier than the books at sometimes, because I know I've beaten a couple of my credit shops because of odds logic. Stay away from basketball until the playoffs get here. Real quickly, college basketball, 670, Boise State. They got bet last night, -5.5, -6, -6.5. Then this morning, that wasn't enough. They bet them again, -7, -7.5, and -8. Books were going up in half-point increments, hoping they stop so they don't open up these 3 and 4 point middles, because the games have been landing close. They also went over in that Boise Butler game, over 149.5, over 150.5. Last night, the first book that went to market. This morning, everyone else opened it up at 150. Last night, everyone else opened up 155.5. And that's when you saw some under money come in. That's why you're looking at 154.5. So somewhere in between there is where they think the line should be. Second game, Nebraska, Georgetown. Same thing yesterday, -6.5 and -7. This morning, they laid the 7.5. They laid the 8, the 8.5, the 9. Only at 9.5 did you see some resistance. Some Georgetown plus 9.5 money came in, but that was probably from the guys that laid the 6.5 on Georgetown. Also a little bit over at 152. Mets, another overnight that got bet, 175 and 180. Then this morning again, that wasn't high enough because they laid the 190, they laid the 195, did the same thing with the total. Went over 8.5 at even money, then laid juice to go over 8.5 today, all the way up to 115. Colorado, Philadelphia, under 7.5, up to -120 last night. No follow through this morning. So they were taking advantage of that key 7.5. Remember, the most important numbers when you're talking in MLB is 7, 9, and 11. Those are the numbers you pay attention to when it comes to totals. 906 Dodgers, -205, -210, -220 yesterday. Then this morning they hit it was -250 in the morning, That's when they came in and took Atlanta plus 225. What a great bet. So you have the Dodgers -205 and -210 the night before, and you have Atlanta plus 225 this morning. Doesn't get any better than that. When you could scalp, why wouldn't you? Minnesota White Sox under 7.5 last night at -120. That's why you're looking at 7 even money today. Be careful of those 7, 9, and 11s. Yesterday, they bet Detroit from -105 all the way up to -150, 120, Today, there was some take back at plus 115 on Seattle. So again, you got -105, -110 on one side, plus 115 on the other. What a beautiful world you get to live in, where you could just scalp.
Yeah.
Angels, St. Louis over 7.5 and 8 yesterday, but that wasn't enough. They bet the over 8.5 again today. So they went from 7.5 to 8 and to 8.5. Maybe wins are going out. Finally, Toronto plus 119, plus 115, plus 110. That's why you're looking at 105 either way. And finally, in NHL, Carolina -160 yesterday. Opened up 170 today. They laid the 70, they laid the 80, and they laid the -190. So you see in hockey, they're moving 10 cents at a time, 15 cents at a time. In baseball, it's 5 cents at a time, a lot of those.
Let's go to the NBA. We'll talk OG Anunoby. Listen, if you've been following the Knicks and Anunoby, you know he's been on fire since Jalen Brunson is out. So we'll take him over 19.5 points. Over in 7 straight games without Brunson. He's averaging 35 minutes and 16.8 field goal attempts. He's shooting 49% from the floor, which is incredible, 42% from threes. He's making some free throws a game. And listen, the Cavaliers, this is not the juggernaut defense that we saw earlier in the season. They're kind of limping to the finish line here. 20th in defensive rating the last 10 games, and they give up 23.5 points to power forward. So look at Anunoby to go over. We'll go to the UFC. There's a really nice underdog I like, Robert Valentin over Torres Finney. This guy Torres Finney, Prez, he comes from Contender Series. He is, I don't know how to, he is one of the biggest guys in this weight class. He's short and a beast. He'll take you down and he'll pound you through the mat. But if you get out of the first round, he is exhausted and he has no energy left. He is an absolute gas bag. And Robert Valentin is a power puncher. This guy was so good on The Ultimate Fighter. He became a coach in the middle of his season. He was supposed to be a competitor. He was so good, they started letting him coach the people that he was fighting with. So Robert Valentin, all he's got to do is survive the first round. He's going to knock out Torres Finney in the second or third. Now, if he gets finished in the first, obviously, this bet is dead. But at plus 210, yeah, I love it. And then let's go to MLB. Nolan Arenado is off to a really good start. We'll take him over 1.5 hits plus RBIs plus runs scored. He's gone over in all 5 games. It's going up against Kikuchi as a starting pitcher. Kikuchi, 1 start this season, 6 innings pitched. He kind of got tuned up. 3 earned runs allowed, 5 hits. Cardinals have been putting up runs, and the Angels have not. The Angels have been giving up quite a bit of runs. So Nolan Arenado to have a good day at the plate.
However, Liverpool, they're coming off a couple of bad results, and they were actually left them trophyless. In fact, in their last match, they lost 2-1 to Newcastle in the EFL Cup final. That's a lost final. And prior to that, they also lost to PSG, and they were eliminated from the Champions League. And a couple of months ago, they were also eliminated from the FA Cup. So the only thing they got right now is the EPL. There's no other trophies to win, just the EPL. Currently, they're 9 points above Arsenal with a match in hand. This match. So if they win this one, they're going to move, 12 points above Arsenal. It's really their title to lose. Now, Everton, they usually, they're in the bottom half of the league table, struggling with relegation, although they've never been relegated from the EPL. Right now, they're going to try to play spoiler to Liverpool because, again, these are fierce city rivals, not as fierce as, let's say, AC Milan and Inter Milan, but Everton coming here to play spoiler, and they've been playing actually really, really well since the change in coach. They rehired David Moyes, who was he used to be there for many years. Since the change in coach, they're unbeaten. They only lost in the FA Cup to Bournemouth. In league play, they are unbeaten in 9 matches in the EPL. They had a 2-2 draw against Manchester United. They beat Tottenham, and they even had a 2-2 draw against Liverpool in the reverse fixture. And I was here to discuss that one as well. Now, this is a tricky game. No matter how you cut it, it could have goals, it could not have goals. Liverpool could win. Everton could go for a draw. I'm going to go with a player prop, and it's none other than Mohamed Salah to score any time. Now, FanDuel, they had the audacity to slap a plus 120 on Mohamed Salah to score any time. I'm all over that. It's actually a 2% play for my clients as well today. He scored 8 goals and 2 assists in, I believe, 12 matches against Everton throughout the years. He scored 9 goals in his last 8 EPL matches. He's having a career year for Liverpool. He scored 27 goals in league play. Only once in his lifetime he scored more goals in the EPL. Back in 2017, I believe, he scored or assisted in 13 of 14 home matches. So the guy is having a tremendous season, and now they're playing against their arch rivals. I think Salah, who by the way is also the designated penalty kick taker. So if there's a penalty kick, and Liverpool, mind you, they're getting the most penalty kicks in the EPL this season, he's the one who's going to take it. So I like Mo Salah to score any time, plus 120. If you shop around, the price is at even money, minus 120. Minus 120 is, I think, the lowest I could go, right? That's in my match parameters as well. So give me Mo Salah to score any time, plus 120. Great price here.
For a long period of time. You're always going to get guys that peak for a year, maybe 2, maybe less, but to stay there year in and year out. And that's what Fitzpatrick did. He peaked a couple of years ago. He could get back to that level, but he's not playing there now. He's only got 2 top 25s this year. He's also got 2 missed cuts in 6 starts. So it's just the inconsistency factor. And then Seamus Power, similar. 3 top 20s in 8 starts, but also 4 missed cuts. It's like these guys either are going to be in contention or they're out of it right away. You compare that to Tommy Fleetwood. And I'll just quickly say Fleetwood, listen, he hasn't won yet on the PGA Tour. That's his downfall. He's not an outright guy that you want to bet, but his floor is pretty much better than all of these guys' ceilings. So since missing the cut at last year's Open Championship, Tommy's finished inside the top 25 in 15 straight starts between the PGA Tour and DP World Tour. And this year, his 5 PGA Tour starts is tied for 22nd, tied for 5th, 11th, 14th, 16th. He's steady. He doesn't get in trouble. He's going to be in that top 25 again. The only way we're going to lose this bet is if somebody has one of their best weeks of the entire year this week. And I just don't see that happening on a regular basis. So plus 175, Tommy Fleetwood over the rest of that pack. Yeah, Lee Hodges, top 20, 225. That includes ties. I always stress doing the including tie market. So when you finish tied for 17th with 7 guys, you're not getting chopped. You're getting paid in full. But going back to last fall, Hodges has missed just 1 cut over his last 10 starts, but has more than half, 6 of them to be exact, top 20 finishes, including a tie for 11th last week at the Houston Open. He's gaining strokes in all 5 measured categories. And this season, that's notable because he was horrendous last year with the flat stick as he lost strokes putting in 12 straight starts through the summer. This year, he's averaging plus 0.81 strokes gained putting per round, ranks 4th in this field. It's a remarkable turnaround, and I'm banking on him. Putting is all about just the belief and confidence in doing it. If he's playing that well or putting that well right now, that confidence is going to be there. So I'm banking on that continuing. His irons have always been solid. He gained strokes on approach in every start this season, and his driver, which is about average as far as distance goes, is extremely accurate, which limits his chances of making the big number. And that's where, a top 20 bet goes wrong when you all of a sudden make a double or worse in the middle of the round. As is usually the case, tee to green is very, very important this week. And Hodges, he's got it going on with his tee shot right now. He doesn't miss the fairways very often. He's not going to get into a lot of trouble. And with that putter going, drive for show, putt for dough, I think the top 20 is a very good chance to cash again this week. Plus 225 is awesome. One, probably not a surprising pick if you're paying attention, but if you aren't, he's coming off another strong performance last week. He finished tied for 4th at the Valspar Championship, which followed an extremely impressive Players Championship, where he ultimately finished tied for 6th. Strong throughout the bag in those 2 events. His approach and putter really spiked. And that's going to likely have to continue this week to make some noise again, but I'm hopeful that it will. He's 5 for 6 in cuts made this season. Going back to the start of the fall season last year, he's 9 for 11. So depending on the price offered, I did look first thing this morning. It's around minus 200, so it's not that great, but it could be a good parlay piece. But betting on him just to make the cut is a decent option as well. But if you don't know Cawley's story, he missed he's been now back. He returned to the PGA Tour a year ago. So he's been back for a year, but he missed 3.5 years with injuries and personal issues. So obviously it takes a while to get back consistency, and it's taken a year to get to that level, but his best play is finally happening again now. And then when it comes to this event, in 6 starts at this event, while some go back quite a few years because of that hiatus, he does have 2 missed cuts, but he also has a tie for 10th and a tie for 18th. So he's got a little familiarity here, and he's playing his best golf of his comeback, let's say, right now. And at 50-1, great price. You can also look at the top 10 or top 20 to kind of back that up.
I really like Alex Smalley. I'm not willing to get off that kind of bandwagon, if you will, with his 2 last missed cuts. He had a bad break on 18 2 weeks ago. Last week, it was really a span of 5 holes that made him miss the cut. He parred a par 5. He went he parred a par 5, went bogey, double bogey, parred a par 5. And that really just kind of took him out of it and, led him to missing the cut with, not making a lot of birdies coming down the stretch. The player that I have him matched up with is Ryan Gerard. We've seen him kind of vault up coming from the Korn Ferry Tour, and he had a really good performance last week with a 9th place finish at the Houston Open. But he really bleeds strokes around the green. He doesn't do a lot off the tee. He really depends on his wedge game, and I do think that we're going to see a little bit of a turnaround from Alex Smalley. He was playing really well, playing probably the best golf of his career going into those last 2 missed cuts the last 2 weeks. So, like I said, wants to ramp up his game a little bit going into this week. I'm not necessarily big on Ryan Gerard, so I'm going to play Alex Smalley at minus 115 tournament matchup over Ryan Gerard. After you get, away from the top 5 or top 6 golfers, it's not really a heavy field. And, I've been cutting my teeth on plus money, top 20, top 10 kind of odds. And I really like the way that Ryan Fox is playing. He finished a really good top 20 out with obviously a much better field in the Players Championship, followed it up with a T15 at Houston. Now, obviously we're back in Texas again this week. And this is the kind of golfer that just won't get in trouble. He's going to keep it safe off the tee. He's going to hit greens. He's going to 2-putt, and maybe it goes in And if it doesn't, no big deal. He's not going to three putt. He's not going to miss a lot of greens. So while a lot of other people are going to, fire at pins and get themselves in trouble, I really like the way that Ryan Fox is hitting the ball, especially with his wedge game, that we see with this type of distance at TPC San Antonio. So I really like Ryan Fox, the way he's playing. I like getting plus 320 on a top 20 bet. Like I said, he doesn't have to win. He doesn't have to beat the likes of Tommy Fleetwood or Obear or Corey Connors.
Right.
Just kind of has to, play his game, get in that top 20. And, if I'm getting a little bit over 3-1, I do think that's a solid bet. I like the way he's playing. He just flat out can't putt. Obviously, he can putt a lot better than Nick and I being on the PGA Tour, but he really just has to stop the bleeding with his putting game. And he did that in the Houston Open last week with, gaining almost 2.5 strokes on the field. He's really good off the tee, really good with his irons. And that's really just the only thing that he needs to iron out. And now TPC San Antonio is not, the likes of Sawgrass or Torrey Pines or PGA National. These are not, overly difficult greens, and with his wedge game, he really should kind of lean in that, 10 to 15 foot range, hopefully make a few putts. This isn't a tournament that usually is, a birdie fest where you need to be over or under 20 under to win this kind of tournament. So he doesn't need to go lights out. He just needs to hit his wedges, keep it in the fairway, and hopefully, some of these putts roll in, keep the 3 putts away. I really like him at 70-1. I love the way that he played, obviously in Texas last week, but he had that tied 33rd finish at the Players. And obviously that's a lot more of a difficult field than what we're going to see this week. So I like him at 70-1 to, hopefully surprise a little bit of these top names up top.